Welcome to the PetroPapers podcast. Say that 10 times fast. This is where you get your oil and gas intellectual stimulation by asking the technical questions. I'm Yogashri Pradhan, and with me here today, I have Easow. Today, we're going to explore Isaac's career trajectory and hear some advice from him on how young professionals or those in the technical part of the industry can make contributions. Welcome to the podcast. Well, so the first question I wanted to ask you, Isaac, is how'd you get here? Tell us about your career path.
Hello, yes. Thank you so much for having me to join you with this conversation. Hopefully, this is going to be helpful for folks who are, in the same industry as we are. And for the career path, well, I started many, many years ago in the 90s, so went to school in India, in Mumbai. I guess it's not too far from where you probably started off as well. So went to school, graduate in geology, master's in geology as well. It was kind of not really planned, like a childhood dream, be a geologist or whatever, but I did know a couple of geologists. It just happened. So, I do believe in destiny too, but it just happens. Like, wow. In hindsight, I would look back and say, wow, how did that happen? And look where I am, how did that whole path start? So, but when I went to school, I like science. That was one of the things that I didn't want to go a whole lot into the commerce or arts or things like that. So I said, okay, let me choose the science path. Physics was good, but I wasn't too good in physics and math, not very strong. So I said, okay, what else? I didn't like chemistry in the lab with all the acids and things like that to play with. So I said, okay, geology seems good. And the rocks and all, we had a good lab in our school and it was good. So then I pursued that path. Then I heard about the oil industry. I also heard about mining. So those are the two things that I kind of focused. Maybe I should start a career in either of them. I didn't know which one was going to be a hit or a miss. But when I was a child, I did think about teaching, so when I was very young. So you see, when I realized in hindsight, after living a long life, I just said, okay, when you're a child, you do have certain thoughts, and these are really your core who you are, so that you got to go back to your childhood and see, what did you think? Maybe it was very mature, the way you think about it, but those are kind of things that are there, it births there. And so you don't need to discard your childhood dreams or thoughts about these things, as long as it is good. So I was thinking about being a teacher. And guess what? I wanted to do teaching, in the villages of India, go to remote areas and look at a lot of the poor people who didn't have schools and facilities. And I thought about teaching a whole lot. And but then I said, wow, then I went into geology, graduate, master's, and everything. Everything went well. I was not a brilliant academic, in academics or in school, but I happened to get into those seats, which are a few seats for geology in Mumbai, and somehow I made it. So just made it by a whisker. So I passed, graduated, all that was great. But then I said, okay, I tried mining. It didn't work out for me. My colleague in school, he got the mining job. And then I said, that was a bit of a disappointment. But I would have gone into a completely different path, mining. So I said, but I got the oil and gas through another friend, senior friend, who helped me get into the oil and gas business. And then when I started off with oil and gas in India, did surface logging for an international surface logging company, one of the largest at that time. And the first jobs were actually startups. So they were the first company was really a startup, and I got to be on the field for the very first deployment in Gujarat, in Western India, in the oil fields there, working for Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, ONGC, in those projects there, out in the fields, villages and small towns of Gujarat. It was pretty nice. And that was my first experience there. And I got to quickly start, deployment of jobs, installations. We have a lot of installation sensors, technology installations at the well site, acquisitions, measurements. So I learned that pretty quick and was able to lead a team there. And then I quit that company and joined another one. Again, this was a startup too for surface logging. This time was in South India. We were preparing this with another colleague. We prepare logging units and how to start these jobs, how to deploy, uh, with some level of experienced folks that were there, for management. So I quickly learned how to take some kind of leadership in these kind of areas. How to start, how to get a unit prepared, logging unit prepared. A lot of techniques and tools and techniques have to be put together. But I ended up getting an offer with the largest surface logging group at that time in India. So I quit that too. But the first startup, folks from the first startup went to the second startup after I left. Okay. And then that company is still running today. It's part of a larger drilling company in India, and they're very successful surface logging for so many years. Ever since I left, it's been growing and growing. And my colleague who I started with is still there. He's a senior, leader there, senior manager in that company. So I'm glad to say that they did very well and they're still doing good. So that was my early days, and then I moved on to Indonesia in Southeast Asia. So in Southeast Asia, we were doing a lot of drilling campaigns in deep water. Not only deep water, also if you heard about the rainforest. Do you know that in the rainforest in Borneo Island in Indonesia, in Sepinggan, or what do you call, not Sepinggan, it's Kalimantan. Kalimantan Island, Balikpapan, these areas were my favorite spots early on in my life. And I had a good time there working for majors, oil majors, out in the wild, in the forest, jungles, offshore, deep water. And did you know that that's the primary area of the orangutan? So
Yeah.
orangutan is, it's there in that country, so in that region. So, that was my experience in Indonesia. I also worked in Sumatra, North Sumatra, in a very thick forested area in the forests of North Sumatra, which is known to have the Sumatran tiger. So those were my experiences there, exploring for oil and gas. We had some major discoveries in the deep water offshore Kalimantan, and I was involved very closely with the geologists, exploration team, reservoir engineers, drilling monitoring, these type of things. So help me to learn, challenging situations at the well site, real time, well control. What does it mean to characterize a reservoir? What are they looking for? What are the challenges of drilling, and how to successfully drill those wells, deep water wells? So I was involved at the top level with those one of the large oil corporations at that time, which merged into a global major today. So at that time, I learned quickly these things, what it is working with the exploration is, what does it mean for wildcat exploration, and to be part of that team and the excitement of making discoveries. And so working with, from this perspective of reservoir kind of evaluation, in oil and gas producers there, predominantly oil, but there was a lot of oil and gas sequences there. Although oil was a target, there was a lot of gas zones that are there, water contacts and things like that. So I love to look at the hydrocarbons, evaluation. So we do the gas measurements, mud gas measurements. So I worked on creating some of these gas interpretational models together with some seniors there. So this is a subject that I was really very interested in. Then I built some models with the reservoir engineers and petrophysicists of that company there, and came up with some interpretational setup there for several wells, multi-well. So this was early days. So this was the progressive direction that I was taking, with reservoir characterization, interpretation, formation evaluation, going to the logging shack with with the wireline engineers, and learning the wireline techniques. What does it mean to use the wireline data and, incorporate that with surface logging, geology, rocks, and do, this kind of interpretation together with all these smart people. So that helped me build that foundation. And then working with the drillers to look at the drilling side of things, real time monitoring wellbore stability, well control, primary well control. What happens when you take a kick? How do you kill the well? These type of things. Working very closely with the drillers, tool pushers. So it was hands-on at the top level, of operations with both sides. So this gave me a lot of how to shoulder responsibility at a very early part of my career, to take on responsible jobs and be the focal point as a team leader on the rigs, to respond to tool pushers, drillers, company man, as well as explorationists in the office. So this, was a real exciting phase of early young days, and I had a lot of fun in Indonesia too during those days. So off the field fun, those things are good too. Good memories, and one of my favorite places to work forever, in Indonesia and in the Borneo Island. Then moving from there, I had to leave Indonesia. I was a bit sad that I was leaving my favorite place to work. So then I got pulled into Middle East and South Asia. So this started my new adventure, kind of Middle Eastern territories in countries, Iran and Yemen and Sudan in Central Africa, North Sudan, South Sudan, and the forests and jungles of South Sudan, kind of, it was a bit tough environment, but there was exciting times. And then also deep water in India. So India, South Asia regions. There was some great discoveries there during that time in the early 2000s. Big one of the giant discoveries. I was part of that very exciting discovery that took place, and top shots, the big CEO level folks came to the rig, and they were all looking at this huge giant discovery, and I was excited to learn what does it mean in such a huge discovery, which it was historic at that time. And so these things were helping me to understand different perspectives of exploration, wildcat drilling. What does it mean for the operator to make it a commercial success? And what next? Appraisal, well drilling, formation evaluation. Then I jumped into pore pressure evaluation, formation pressure. So this was something that, because I was already looking at all this formation evaluation, I said, okay, this is something that I need to add to the pore pressure kind of the story, which, so I got training. I came to the United States in 2003 and took training for pore pressure engineering. So I became a pore pressure specialist in South Asia and in the Middle East. And I kind of used both, like formation evaluation, reservoir characterization, plus pore pressure. So I said, okay, this is expanding that horizon, right? So I got to do a few good projects. Sometimes I was whole and soul on the rig, the focal point of pore pressure evaluation. Hey, what's the pore pressure trend looking like? What is the mud weight we're going to use while drilling? Talking to the top level rig team leaders from the oil company. So this was, again, a very responsible role to play in the 2000s. And then again, I got an opportunity to choose, which direction are you going to go to? Are you going to stick to pore pressure engineering, or are you going to go back to something that it was dear to me, the formation evaluation, hydrocarbon evaluation, things like that. I got an opportunity to come to the United States. I never ever dreamt that I would go to the US, because I said, this is my comfort zone in Southeast Asia, South Asia, even Middle East, or this, generally in this area. I didn't think that, hey, I'm going to go to the other side of the world, US? No way. when I went to in the US for training in 2003 for pore pressure engineering, one of my family people told me that, no, I think you're going to come here and you're going to settle down here. You're going to work from here. I said, no way, so far away from India. But then when it happened, see, there you go. You can't stop destiny. It just happens. So, so here I am. So 2007, 6, 7, I started working in, in the United States. But before that, I had a very wildcat exploration well in the middle of nowhere in the Middle East country, and was a giant project where I got to again experience a wildcat scenario drilling in the Middle East. Of course, in Sudan too, we had that. So those are good experiences to think, to build on to the solid foundation that and gain all the experiences of different environments of drilling and exploration, and what does it mean for different types of operators and operations. Then I switched to domain, reservoir fluid characterization domain, looking at a wider range of projects from a location. So the remote kind of monitoring, remote interpretation, remote support for working with customers around many countries at the same time. This was called as remote domain support, based out of Houston. So that helped me to work with global majors, North America, South America, West Africa, those projects that were given to me to support, to interacting with oil and gas exploration, reservoir geology, different petrophysics. These type of things were done in the early years while I was working in the US. A lot of the work was Gulf of Mexico focused as well, apart from what was happening in South America, in Brazil, deep water as well. So a lot of deep water focus those early years while I was here in Houston, working with all major operators, and lots of discoveries, good exciting times, good learning, working in-house in their offices, and getting to work with geochemists, geologists, reservoir engineers, petrophysicists. So the wide area of these type of things helped me to build on to things that I learned in the other part of the world. So then came the switch. The switch came from deep water systems to unconventionals. So the unconventionals started booming 2010, 11, 12, so I switched from there to get more and more into the unconventional world. So stepping out of the comfort zone of hydrocarbon evaluation, okay, not just hydrocarbons. So now we got to look at the rocks. So because the rocks and hydrocarbons both needs to be looked at it together, right? So unconventional, different world. So I started working with a lot of folks from the unconventionals, petrophysics, reservoir, again, the same kind of folks, and professionals who were focused on this. So this is a different world altogether. So then I started traveling all across North America with sales, marketing, technical marketing support, learning more and more about how to utilize the same technologies that you use elsewhere, how to tune it for the unconventionals. Then you got to do the rocks, organic, inorganic measurements, new tools, technologies. These are things that I learned. So working with, senior level people in my company, not a geolog, but my previous employer, and R&D teams develop new techniques. These things I work with, and then, of course, I switched companies again, jumped to Geolog. So Geolog was pretty much a startup at that time in North America. Although it was established elsewhere in the world, in North America, we really didn't do any commercial project until, when I joined in there at that time, and we slowly built a team. Was involved in hiring and interviewing young people, a lot of young people. I had to go through interviewing them as well to recruit them to be part of the team that we were building in this startup. Geolog pretty much grew from almost scratch to what it is today. I've been part of that story with several other of my colleagues who we worked together to build a team and braved the storm, braved the downturn in 2015-16 was pretty tough, but that's when we were actually growing. That's when we started our projects in 2015, 16, 17, and then kept growing, expanding to unconventionals, offshore, uh, Alaska. So we started working in Alaska. So that was a new frontier to conquer. So learned a lot of things working in Alaska as well. And so this is the journey. But technically speaking, was involved in publications, writing papers with oil majors, also with senior technical experts with my previous employer, and also a geolog for many years. So started doing those things, how to technically contribute to the industry, learning how to write papers, how to be patient about this process. But the real-time operations were my key. I had to do a lot of traveling, sometimes some days it was 3 or 4 client meetings on the same day. We catch a plane early in the morning, leave home 3, 4 o'clock, catch the earliest flight, go to another city, do several presentations, stay overnight, do another one next day, or come back the same day. Who knows? So it's running from one client to another. So we had to build a business market, but at the same time, I was using that to learn what this whole industry is all about. Because the hundreds and hundreds of operators all across different cities, different locations, all across North America.
Hello?
And also Alaska. Sometimes in the middle of nowhere. Uh, are you on?
Yeah, we're on.
I, I see that internet got traveling. I had to saying that do real
Go ahead.
time.
I can hear you.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Do you
now.
hear me now? Okay, I don't know which internet. Okay, yeah. So what I was saying is, traveling across United States to interpretations, all that on the fly, long flights, in flight, on the road, these, in between hotels or stopping by somewhere where there's an internet signal. These kind of things were challenges for sure. But answering to operators' questions on the fly, you don't want to keep them waiting, right? So because it's also being competitive. The sales is part of the whole thing. You got to be competitive because nevertheless there is competition out there. So we need to show that we are really taking care of operators' needs and showing that we are there. So you're a service company. So when you're a service provider, it's a different kind of world, right? So you have to be right on your toes at all times. So that's kind of the journey, and you know, uh, and, and I did try to uh, get some professional courses along the way. You can think along the way, got some certification, say, technology, learning was that The last part, what I said was that, the interpretation part, which I was doing in real time, and then the sales, marketing, sales and marketing is part of this, and we have to be very competitive and provide these kind of new techniques, but also the courses that I learned along
Yeah.
the way I. Let's go back. Okay, I said, I think I got everything there.
Yeah, you got everything on the training courses. So I actually wanted to go ahead and ask you on, actually, first of all, that was fantastic as far as the career trajectory goes, because that was very exciting to listen to. And I can relate in the same way in that I've had this passion to teach, which is why I've been putting together. I've been that passion to teach is since I was a kid. So now I've been putting together short courses for reservoir engineers, for non-reservoir engineers like geologists like yourself. So it's a really good. It resonates with me quite a bit. Your career path and the willingness to teach too.
Okay. Yeah. So give me a second. Let me go and get an.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
So
got a separate. Okay.
yeah.
Can you please repeat the last question again?
Yeah, no, it wasn't a lot. It was a comment. The comment was I
Okay.
could definitely resonate with the teaching, the willingness to teach, because ever since I was a kid, I've been wanting to teach too. And now I've been tapping into that, like what I wanted to do since I was a kid, and now I've been putting together short courses for non-reservoir engineers and geologists like yourself. I guess I wanted to go to the next question and what kind of advice you've touched upon this a little bit on your career path, but what kind of advice would you give to those who want to make technical contributions to the industry?
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned about teaching again, just to go back to that quickly, because teaching is what I really like to do, because, uh, I teach, and over the years, mentoring was a big thing for me in my career path. I always like to coach and teach young people coming out of school, or joining the industry new. I should teach them a whole lot, whether they liked it or not. Sometimes they were like, "Okay, this is a bit too much, or it's going over my head." But I like to teach. If you ask a lot of folks who I've been working with, they say, "Oh yeah, Isaac likes to teach." So some receive it, and some have done very well. Actually, after receiving that teaching, they took hold of it, and they're doing really great in the industry. They're lots of industry leaders as well. So I've been very happy to work with them, mentor them also as much as I could share, knowledge sharing, big way. And then I also teach in presentations or school seminars, workshops. So, I think the question which you said about contributions, for the young professionals is what can, whether you're young or, older, or you've had a long term in the career in the industry, uh, what knowledge can you share? So I like to share knowledge. This is a big thing for me, so wherever I go, whatever opportunity I take, I'd like to teach, even if it's a client presentation, even if it's a sales presentation. I make sure that, I'm going to give, hey, this is my, part of the technology that I would like to share. This is the thing. This is the real ground truth, and I would like to share that with my customers, as well as in schools and workshops. So if a person like me who has knowledge, who has got a lot of experience worldwide in different environments. First thing is I would like to share that knowledge, right? I mean, how can it help um, professionals, people who are early years in your career, or clients who are having specific challenges? Operators, if somebody is joining an operator company, maybe they didn't have exposure to a lot of environments or outside their place where they're working. You are given one job, one task, one project, and you don't know much about the rest of the industry, right? So um, if people like me can help in sharing what we learned, um, you know, unbiased kind of, so even, you may have restrictions based on where you work and legal restrictions and other things, but whatever is possible within the spectrum of publications, seminars, going out to different areas and kind of schools, maybe, universities, things like that, teaching them or helping them, like you mentioned the same thing, short courses or things like that. So, and when you write articles in journals, how can you contribute in you know luncheons, or it may not be possible everywhere to go, and you have to find the opportunities. Then participate, join the SPWLA, SPE, then the AADE, or any other organizations that are specific to your kind of career path, right? So these are things that we can do from like a general global perspective. Join and participate, be part of these kind of discussions and conversations. And then if you are a professional, you're working in a company and you got a senior role and industry leadership, uh, use the opportunities to come out with solutions, for challenges that operators have in a specific area. Every region has got their own kind of challenges, right? So there are always challenges. So how can we contribute to work with the operators or other service companies, service providers, uh, to partner with them, or kind of see what is the thing that this operations need here. How can we provide some of those solutions? And from our experiences, how can we add to that? So again, participation is very important. You can't isolate yourself and expect yourself to be successful, right? So you got to find where do you blend into some of these kind of forums and groups. And sometimes it's a little bit risk. Some of us are shy, from the get-go. We're a little bit shy, we don't take off, and some are not outspoken. Or I wasn't that outspoken when I was young. Well, I was shy, and it developed over the years. Now I can stand and preach to the crowd or whatever. But that did not come without practice, right? So the more you practice, and more you are not camera shy, or crowd shy, or these kind of things, and field questions, and be part of debates and conversations, and be passionate about what you're doing. The passion needs to be there, because what drives you, and what motivates you to do that. So these are things which, whether you're young or you've already been mid-career, even, you can go and start again, start afresh, some new place, new challenges, or new ideas, or new techniques, technologies. There's a lot of things. Oil industry is huge and diverse, and I'm learning every day new things. And when you do your podcast, there's a diverse kind of people that you interview as well. It's not just because you happen to be in the reservoir or production, but you have a diverse set of people who you have been interviewing and doing podcasts. So we can learn from that too. So you learn from different, so you go to a conference and seminar, try to sit in sessions which are not necessarily your comfort zone. Look at something else and try to see, have a open ideas, open mind to learn some other things and see what happens, a different dimension, a different aspect of So these are just things that I kind of do it, not always successful. It's based on the time that I have, to to devote to these things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, there's one more question I wanted to ask you before I let you go. And that question is, what motivates you to solve oil and gas problems?
Wow, yes. Without the motivation, how can you keep going on and, going on for many years? So, when I started off, as I said, in Southeast Asia and Indonesia, there were those challenges there. I knew there was challenges, right? So, did I think that I have solutions for that, right? So I thought that I was knowledgeable enough to see, yeah, there is some solutions that I can provide at that time, from reservoir characterization and to the petrophysics, because the tools that operators use, that their focus is based on some specific kind of tools that they're used to, or which has been sold to them, or which is, as a corporation or a company, that this is what we're going to do. But going out of the box sometimes in large corporations may not be easy. It just doesn't happen in a jiffy. It has to go through processes and protocols to implement certain things. So I see that there could be innovative solutions from the vendor side, people like us, and I have earned some respect over the years, and so with that respect and that I have, then okay, people do trust me when I say something, hey, this is some way to do some things, which is a little bit out of the box from large operators and corporations. But maybe I will try this with you. And how can we provide some solutions? Sometimes we go to a client office and we give them an idea, and it's not even part of the well profile, or well project, or the AFE or anything, or the budget. So then they just end up having to add that. They add that. So, okay, let's try this, let's find something to do. So this gives me an excitement. Like I told you about the excitement of making those, being part of the discoveries, giant discoveries. So being part of that team, the great discoveries, the successes that come behind it, and then how that project evolves through the years. So when you see the results and how that, the small little part that I may play together with my team, how can that help in the big picture, right? So this motivation is like you're collecting a lot of data. Operators collect a lot of data, and but then the data doesn't get used. It may be sitting in a server somewhere, or gathering dust, so to say, and it doesn't get utilized. So data analytics is something which is, of course, the new kind of direction. The last several years, a lot of folks are jumping into data analytics and coming out with new ideas on how to do this, AI and all that. That's a buzzword these days. But the analytics is utilizing what is already there. There's a lot of legacy data, a lot of unused data collected, and how can we integrate wider sets of data? And for me, I know that with all the experience that I have through the years in different settings, and I'm still learning, how can I get into some kind of project where I can be a contributor to providing those solutions, right? So because I know that the part that I play, or my company, or the group of people that I work with play, is, yes, we can provide some of these solutions. So why not? So there is that, hey, this is a good project, this is a great project, this is something, a headline project or something like that, or it could be a headline project. And so here we are, part of this great discovery, part of this great innovative solution that we provided to the operator. So these things, and then I keep moving from one project to another, right? So on a given day, I could be involved in 5 different projects, maybe in 5 different states or different areas of North America, for example, or some other part of the world. So this is like the motivation that you need to be part of, great projects, innovative solutions, and doing something meaningful and constructive, and then using these resources when you make some good income. Don't just use it for myself. Do something for the industry in general, and also for social causes, social welfare and welfare of the world around us. There's a lot of things to do. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Isaac, for sharing us your story, and then also sharing some advice for our viewers and listeners.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Well, folks, I'll be sure to put some of the geolog papers in the description box below for our viewers and listeners on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube. This is Yoga Shri Pradhan, and we are signing off.
Thank you.